Hello everyone, it's Amy and I'm back, and I just thought that I would show you some other stencils that I made. I'm just getting ready to jelly plate, so I thought I'd show you before they got all messed up. I believe that this was in the last batch that we did. But since then, I have made this bamboo, which I really thought turned out really well. And I made some birch trees. And then I also have the masks for the birch trees. And I made some leaves on the branches. And I thought that turned out really well. I made some daisies, except when I printed it upside down. And I didn't want to put it in the book upside down, so they're backwards to each other in the book. But I thought those turned out really cool. I made a large flower, which I really liked. Well, I really liked them all, I think. Hearts with keyholes. And the biggest thing when you're making a stencil is you have to remember, if you have something like a heart, if you were to make it connect, it would cut it right out of the paper. So you have to remember that if you want it to stay in the paper, it can't connect if it's something like a circle or a heart that's going to make a continuous line. This is a brick wall. And I made some cobblestone. And I made the Cheshire Cat. And this is the stencil. And then you can put it together and basically it would look like that. So I was happy with that. I just started out by just making the smile, and then I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll make all the parts and pieces. So I made some snowflakes. And I made a flower background. So I thought that turned out really well. And again, the biggest thing is that remember that you don't cut out the lines, you cut out the blank space or the negative space, and that's how you wind up getting your full stencil. I did just plain old lines. I thought that would be nice to journal in, or just all different sorts of things. I made triangles, a background, and I made paint splatter, and I made a target. Okay, here we go. Lesson learned. This is the target that I made, and I had to make sure that where the circle came around, it did not touch itself, because the first time that I cut it out, I didn't do that. I cut all the way around the outside edge, and get a piece of paper here. This is what I wound up with. So it didn't turn out the way I wanted. And I thought I had it the way I was going, the way I put the line through the middle, and so then I just cut around here and stopped at the line. That connected it all together. Never thought about the whole outside edge. But I wound up with a full mask, and I wound up with the target mask, and then I had to go back in and do it again. And then I wound up with the connected target. So the way that I did that was I just went around the outside edge very thinly and then made sure that we did not connect here, and that left the whole thing inside the paper because it was connected at this point right here, so the whole thing did not fall out. That was my one mistake, was not leaving it connected right there. So well, my one mistake on this one. Had lots of mistakes, but every time that you do one, you just learn from it. If you love stencils and you buy stencils and you think, oh, stencil cutter, $20, that's a lot of money. If you go to the craft stores and use your 40 or 50% off coupon, you're talking 10 or 12. And a stencil this size normally costs you more than $10 or $12. I've paid $20 for a full-size stencil before. So if you think that you'd like to cut them out and you love stencils and you use them all the time and you spend money on them anyways, I think it's really worth it to go ahead and buy the stencil cutter, and then you can make whatever you want, whatever you think up in your head, or you see a design that you think, oh, I like that, but I'd like it to look just a little bit different. Then you can just go ahead and make anything that you can think of. You can these flowers were like on a calendar. You know, I saw some, they were like small or whatever, but I saw like some daisies like this, and I thought that would make a cool stencil. So I wanted a full-size one, and I just, when I drew it out, I just drew it full size. And then also, excuse me, also I got a folder to put in the back of my binder, and this side is the things that I took off the computer. You know, I took the words off the computer and the clouds that I had made and all the different shapes. And I got this space picture off the computer. So those are all on this side. And then the things that I drew, I put them here. That way if I ever ruin my stencil, I still have my pattern. And when I was drawing out the patterns, what I did was I made a square box how large I wanted it. And when I drew, I just drew it. I drew whole paint splatters here. Then, so I wouldn't get confused, even though there was a line here. I just went in and darkened out all those parts where I had drawn them, and so that I wouldn't even see them. So when I got to that point, I would remember to make a straight line and not to make a circle, because I kind of wanted it in this square shape. And so, you know, so I just drew them out that way. And things like the snowflakes, when I drew the snowflakes, I drew a bunch of them. I found one that I really liked, and I took the one that I really liked, and I used it behind my paper as a pattern to draw the others. And that's not cheating. You know, you drew the original. It doesn't hurt to use that as a base, because if I tried to draw all of these all exactly the same, they wouldn't come out the same. It would drive me crazy. They're still not exactly the same, but they're very close and they look good, you know, especially when I'm drawing flowers. I did the same thing with these flowers, because especially when I draw flowers, you know, I'll draw 5 or 6, they all look the same, they all look so great, and then I draw another one, and this petal's way too big, or it's way too skinny, or I couldn't fit 5 petals in, and, you know, and then it would be like, oh, scratch the paper, start all over again. So I drew one flower that I liked, I stuck it underneath my page, and then I just kept moving it around, making sure that they touched everywhere, because, and then you draw, when you cut it, you cut the white and leave all of the black lines. And so long as the black lines are touching and they're touching your edge, they'll stay inside the stencil. So, so that's what I did. You know, I draw them out sometimes and I get them where I want. And, you know, see here I have a message for myself, stay inside the lines, because I had started to cut this one out, messed up, and wound up cutting like some whole petals, and then, you know, the whole thing just didn't work. When I did that one, I kept trying to do it, and, you know, this side was absolutely driving me crazy. It looked awful, but I liked the looks of this side, so I drew a line down it, put this under my paper. I drew this half, turned it around underneath the paper, and drew the other half. And that made my flower look much more symmetrical. It made me happy. So, you know, obviously your cobblestone is really nice and easy, because that's just some little blobs. And, you know, but so that's what I did. Even when I was doing some of my flowers, I sketched them out first. So you can see there's different, you know, I just tore out the pieces where, oh, I like that flower. I put that underneath my paper, and that's what I used to trace. Or sometimes I just make little sketches and I put them in here to remind myself that I want to make something like that. With these ones, I drew a really nice petal, and, you know, like some of my petals were nice, and then I got some really awful ones. So what I did was I took the one petal and put it on here over and over again. Tried not to copy it 100% exact, but to stay fairly close, and that way it looked well. I did the same thing with this side. Drew one petal that I really liked, and then used that one petal to make the whole flower. Oh, here's the petals. There's the smaller one for this one, and then there's the larger petal for this one. And actually I was going to do one flower, wound up with 2 because the petals look different, but I liked them both. If you want something to be fairly symmetrical, you know, you can draw the circle and draw yourself to that circle so that you don't wind up with, you know, jaggy lines or edges that you don't want. So, but that's just what I do. I just draw it down and just use that to cut with. You know, you put it underneath your glass and then you cut it that way. You know, this one I had too many to fit on the page, so I only did these. But, you know, that's just how I do it. And I really appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask. And I really am having a great time doing this. I think I have like 30 of them already, and still have lots of ideas I have sketched out, but I think I'm going to play with my jelly plate today. So I thought I would show you my stencils before they got totally trashed. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.